Andy Johnson. We're looking at the skills lesson plan and online teaching demo related to comprehension. This is for my literacy methods class. Remember, the skills lesson plan is comprised of 4 parts: the purpose statement, what the lesson is for, the input and modeling, exactly what students need to know, guided practice, you do it together, and then independent practice or an activity where they're practicing what they have learned. The purpose statement is used to clarify in your mind, what is this lesson about? What am I doing? What do I want students to learn? What am I trying to accomplish? It's a statement. It is one sentence. No stinking behavioral objectives for kindly old Dr. Johnson. That's because learning is a cognitive endeavor, and not all students will master this the first time. But you can think of a specific task if that helps. Okay, what am I trying to do here? What do I want students to do at the end of the lesson? Here's an example of purpose statements related to this assignment or activity. Learn how to predict, compare and contrast, cause. That's the purpose. That's why I am doing this lesson. Or you could put it this way. Students will learn how to use, and here are the graphic organizers related to these cognitive processes. You are teaching a cognitive process related to comprehension. You are teaching the process to develop the skills. So at the end of the lesson, your students should be able to independently fill out these graphic organizers using a text that you have selected. That's what they should be able to do at the end of the lesson. Aren't you saying we should use a behavioral objective? No. Dr. Johnson does not use behavioral objectives because learning is a cognitive process, not a behavior. But if it helps you to think of an end state or an end behavior, go ahead and do it. But learning is a cognitive process. Step 1, make sure you understand what comprehension is, comprehending, and teaching it. Read chapters 3 and 4 and watch the supporting mini lectures. You're teaching the process to develop the skill. The goal is automaticity, so that as they are reading in the future, they'll be predicting naturally without thinking about it, or supporting a statement, or comparing and contrast. The goal is not to be able to use a predictograph. We don't want students 10 years from now using a predictograph. We are teaching the process to develop the skill. Automaticity, automaticity. Step 2, identify one of the 4 cognitive processes related to comprehension. Now, these are all cognitive processes that effective readers use automatically. So we're teaching the process so that it becomes automatic. Teach the process to develop the skill. A skill is something that you do automatically. Part of this is you have to break the process into parts. What are the steps? How would I predict? You decide what the steps should be. I'm not going to tell you what the steps are to comparing and contrasting. This is what teachers do. They break processes down into steps. Last night I was taking a dance class and there was a complicated move. We can think of that as a process. The goal was to develop automaticity, but we broke it down into steps so kindly old Dr. Johnson could eventually figure out that skill. Did I master it after last night? Certainly not. The goal is automaticity, and that will come after many, many lessons and more practice. Here's an example of how you might break prediction down into steps. Now, this is my idea based on the students that I am teaching. So you make a decision how best to break that cognitive process into steps. Step 3, what is a graphic organizer I'm going to be using? How will I use it to teach the input, teach and model? How will I be using it with the guided practice? And how will I use it for the activity or independent practice? Now remember, students will be using this independently with a story. We don't want them to simply compare and contrast something out there, animals or zoos or something. We want them to compare and contrast something within a story. We are teaching this as a cognitive process related to comprehension. You comprehend stories and texts. So your modeling, your guided practice, your independent practice should all take place within the context of a story. This is a comprehension skill. All right, so I kind of already hit this. And here are all the stories on D2L. You can decide which one of these you will use. If you have another story that you'd rather use, that is grades 2 through 5, simply list the author and publisher, or better yet, take some pictures of it so I know exactly what you're doing, how you're using the text. Guided and independent practice should take place within the context of a story or text. When you teach it, model it, you want to model it with some sort of text. What I do often when I'm teaching and modeling, I use a fairy tale because I can assume that most students have read them, so I can use that to model it within a story. Step 4, what is the graphic organizer? Which one are you going to use? And here are your different ones. Here's the predictograph. Make changes if you think. Comparison chart. Similarities, differences. Supporting details or support a statement. Not support, but support. I hate when I make errors. The statement. You make the statement, they have to find the supporting ideas, all right? So you will make a statement related to that story or text, and students have to find the supporting ideas. Don't expect students to be able to make a statement. So you will make a statement, and they need to find out how to find, you'll need to teach them how to find the supporting ideas. Cause, effect. This is the cause, what's the effect? This is the effect, what's the cause? You may want to teach them separately. With younger children, you want to teach them. Maria's born, let's read to find out what happened next. You'll probably have to teach cause and effect before you can teach a cause-effect or graph. All right? Step 4, what text will I use? For guided practice, independent practice, could be different parts of the same text, and again, you decide. At the end of the lesson, your students should be able to independently fill out the graphic organizer related to the cognitive process you will be teaching using the text that you have selected. Then the specific input, the information that students need to know, short abbreviated sentences using list or outline form. Your modeling and demonstration should take place within the input, all right? Teacher directions, use parentheses. Now this is lesson input for a lesson on verbs, not comprehension. But I want you to notice how I use list or outline form, how I use parentheses to give directions for myself or the teacher. Make it simple. This list or outline form enables you to see the structure and sequence of your lesson. That helps both as you're planning and as you're teaching. Guided practice, it's a scaffold, a learning experience with structure. You are taking students through the skill. They are using the skill, using the graphic organizer. This enables you to see if students are getting it. That means you want to do 1 or 2 of these together with a gradual release of responsibility, meaning less teacher, more student as you move on. At the end of your guided practice, students should be able to do it independently. They should be able to read and fill in the graphic organizer using a text or story with 95 to 100% success ratio. That is our goal. And then the independent practice or activity is practice of what students have learned. They should be able to do it with 95 to 100% success. Now, not all students will, but that is our goal. Independent practice activity is to practice and reinforce what students have learned. It's not a measuring device. Now, I hear you saying, well, what about assessment? How do we know students have learned? And I say unto you, not every lesson should be assessed. We are teachers, not measurers. There are times and places for assessment, but not every stinking lesson needs to be assessed. Get back to teaching, more teaching, less measuring. Here are the 4 parts of the skills lesson plan. Big idea. You will understand these principles and be able to apply them to a lesson plan and online teaching demo. And the big idea, this will make it more likely that you're able to transfer these skills to a real life teaching situation. That's why we're doing this, by the way.